Declare to you today that I am a Rainite. I love it. I was trying to play around with that and having a good time with that. And I love the theme. What a packed service already. I mean, my gosh, Lisha talked about camp. I mean, okay, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And the power of camp. As always, what an honor it is to be here before you and all of your love and support for camp. And I just can't say enough of how much you have helped camp over the years, but particularly the last 18 months. And there's been some requests about, how is camp doing? Well, you're the first that gets to hear it. We have a Save Swamp video update coming out tomorrow. So it is talks a lot about where we are a little bit financially, but more important, what we learned from the last 18 months and where we think it's going to take us. And at the end of the video, there is a big announcement, and that's all I'm going to tell you. I just hooked you, didn't I? Yeah. So look for it. It's actually already out there on the website. You could even see it today. But anyway, but you'll be hearing more about that. I can't say enough for all the people that serve on the board and the SCS board, ACOC board, all the boards, whatever board we have. There's somebody's there from Cornerstone, and I'm very grateful for that. So thank you very much. Very interesting, it's so cool to see Kim in her Halloween outfit. It's just neat. I know what she's going to do for trick or treat tonight. That was fun. But what an incredible program. Interesting this weekend too. I was so grateful there was a mass section. Not only because we're trying to be careful. Jennifer's mom was recently diagnosed with cancer, had surgery, and so she's going on chemotherapy. And Jennifer, so we're trying to be careful for that. But it also, I had a tooth that got broke this weekend, so I thought, well, my mask can hide that. But now when I get up here and preach, I can just say, you know what? Hey, welcome that country boy from Athens. yeah, okay. Anyway. So life is never dull, is it? I mean, it's just amazing. But I started thinking about what to talk about. And I came back from camp, and you can go ahead and cue up the first. And we're going to work together here, so when I point, I came back from camp, I'm so glad we had camp. And we didn't have a full capacity, but man, the kids who were there, the counselors there, you talking about being excited to be together. You thought we hadn't had camp in like 20 years. But living through these last years and everything, not just pandemic, socially, politically, all that's going on, just this context we live in. And what's on my heart. And Jennifer and I got to live with, 50 counselors about that 17 to 24 years old age for the whole summer. We moved out to camp. We didn't leave, created a bubble. And it's just interesting to hear what's on their hearts, to hear what's tugging, to hear what's pulling, to hear what they're vying for. And I began to think about me. And I began to think about, well, what is it that's pulling on me as well? And how can I utilize and learn? And then when Fenton, birthday boy, James, when he called me and he showed me your theme, I thought, oh my gosh, yes. Now, these questions, where has truth gone? I'll let that just float in the room. What are the needs of the church? I'm honored. I was so grateful. What a group of men that you're about to appoint for elders. How cool. I recently had that privilege in the Athens church this year. And so now I think about the church all the time. Not that I didn't, but now even more so. What are the needs of the church? And then with the young Christians, but how-tos, how do we practically help Christians be Christians in this day and age in this world? And so I thought about all these things, and then it dawned on me that these things are on trial. They're literally on trial. The truth, the church, Christianity is on trial. And that led me to read about Paul in the book of Acts. And it led me to figure out what happened in Paul's trial. Now, what's interesting, have you ever thought about, the majority, or not majority, 1/4 of the book of Acts is about Paul's journey to trial. It's actually 28.6%, in case you want to know. But it's full of just him going to trial. Why so much biblical real estate for that? And I began to read it over and over. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd start reading it, and I'd read it and over and over and over. And it began to, some words started popping out. And I'm not going to sit here and read 21 to 28 with you. I'm actually going to recap it and highlight a couple things so that we can move on to what I feel like it's the reason that it's there. But here's what happens. And you can go ahead and turn to Acts 26. We'll get there eventually, okay? But in the meantime, while you're flipping pages or, electrons, let me recap what happened. So Paul comes to Jerusalem. And he goes, apparently there's some controversy about him and the law and everything. So he ends up, okay, got to go to the temple, got to fulfill the law. So he takes some brothers with him and he does this. But in the meantime, people are making assumptions. Sound familiar? And you're going to see a lot of this is really the context. It's really interesting. We think this is all new. No, 2,000 years ago. There's some assumptions and there are some, even lies. And so all of a sudden, people start talking and they get in an uproar when they see Paul go to the temple. And he's like, I'm just trying to, fulfill the law and be here and be what the brothers need. Wasn't even trying to be, make a big scene or anything. And so the city gets in an uproar. And finally the Romans hear about it and they want to squelch this thing. What's going on? So they call in the troops and they're trying to ask, who is this? What's going on? And the scripture says this. It says, the crowd answered in such an uproar that they couldn't get to the truth. Oh, that's contextual, isn't it? So Paul's like, okay, before you take me away, he speaks to the commander, says, let me talk to them. And the Roman commander says, well, aren't you that Egyptian? Aren't you that Egyptian that's starting something? And he goes, no, I am a Jew. Okay, and so he speaks to the crowd and he tries to tell them what's going on. Well, the crowd flips out. And he causes much more disturbance than there already is. And so they take him away and they're like, okay, yeah, you're somebody. You may not be an Egyptian, but maybe you're an Egyptian Jew. I don't know, but you are somebody and we're going to flog you. And finally he goes, no, I am a Roman. And that gets everybody's attention because you see, you're not allowed to hurt or punish a Roman citizen without a trial. So he appeals to that. So the commander takes him away, and during this time, God speaks to Paul and says, hey, take courage. This is all a part of the plan. Sometimes I wish God would just come down, write it in my notebook and say, it's okay, just take courage. I'm waiting. Truth is, he does it a lot. I just got to be open to seeing it. So he's in captivity here waiting, and all of a sudden his nephew finds out about a plot to kill him. And so Paul says, hey, go tell the commander. Go tell him what's going on. And so he does, and they figure out that, there's this plot. So they sneak Paul out of town at night to go see Governor Felix. So there's a trial set. He's under house arrest for, in Herod's palace. And then they start the trial, and the accusers start saying this. They say, examine him yourself. You will be able to learn the truth. So another reference to this truth. So is it Paul or is it the truth that is on trial? Well, this goes on for 2 years, and Festus he's the governor, and finally he doesn't know what to do with Paul. He lets him sit in prison as a favor to the Jews, and along comes Felix. All right, Felix left Paul, and then along comes Festus. And Festus is like, okay, well, let's see what's going on here. And so he calls for a new trial, but Paul appeals to Caesar. Okay, we're going to take this to the big dog, all right? Sorry, Jim, that was a dog reference. Oh, man, I did it again. Oh, my gosh, sorry. I told him, anyway, all right. I got to buy him lunch. He calls for this new trial, and he goes to Caesar. And so while they're waiting, well, it turns out, since Festus is new, King Agrippa shows up into town. And Festus says, I'll get some advice here, which when translated means let's get him involved and pass this thing on. Anyway, King Agrippa comes in, and King Agrippa's heard about some of this. He's not unaware of what's going on. And he says, I'd like to hear this guy. So he calls him, and they start talking. And Paul tells about his conversion story. Can you imagine? Fenton and Paul sitting down on their chairs, got their mics on, and Paul begins to tell he starts telling about his conversion story. And he says, who are you, Lord? I am Jesus. And he goes on. And then this is where we'll pick up. Next slide. And you can follow along in Acts 26, but it says this. It says, at this point, Festus interrupted Paul's defense. Verse 24. You are out of your mind, Paul, he shouted. Your great learning is driving you insane. I'm not insane, most excellent Festus, Paul replied. What I'm saying is true and reasonable. I love that phrase. The king is familiar with these things, and I can speak freely to him. I'm convinced that none of this has escaped his notice because it was not done in a corner. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know you do. Then Agrippa said to Paul, do you think that in such a short time you can persuade me to be a Christian? He uses this word Christian. And many of us know it. If you're new to Christianity, I love asking people, how many times do you think Christian's in the Bible? And they're like, I don't know, 50, 60, maybe 200. It's 3 times. And here's one of them, and they're all derogatory. So here we go. Christian, really? He said, Paul replied, and this is the crux of it. I love it. Short time or long, I pray to God that not only you, but all who are listening to me today may become what I am, except for these chains. What I am. And here's what I think how Paul answered that. What is he? Paul, are you a Jew? Are you a Roman? Are you a Pharisee? What are you, Paul? Might have to. I am a Christian by choice and conviction. And I hope everyone, except for the chains, I hope everyone. Interesting that Agrippa used the word Christian. I am a Christian. Now, would you do something with me? I'm going to count to 3, and I would like for everybody to say this phrase. I am a Christian by choice and conviction. Now, I'm not looking for you to say it in unison. Don't care. I don't care if you say it all together. No, I want you to say it like your life depended on it. I want you to say it like the truth depended on it. I want you to say it like it's not done in a corner, but it's done from the rooftops. You say it in that way. You ready? And then after we say it, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to reflect on what your reaction is to what you just said. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. What you discovered in this last 30 seconds in your reflection may tell you everything you need to know about your Christianity, the health of the church, and the quest of the truth. What did you discover? Passion, fear, hesitation, conditions, distrust, wholeheartedness, excitement, anticipation, expectation, legalism, drudgery, burdens, longing, thankfulness, energy, hope, joy, peace, or nothing. I don't have any practicals for you today. I don't have step 1, 2, and 3. I'm not going to leave you with any practicals. But if something's going to reign in our life, we've got to get in touch with our passion. And for those of you who have said this statement for multiple decades, reach down and stir up the sediment. Because who cares about practicals if we don't have passion. Because we can sit here and we can talk practicals and step 1, 2, and 3, but it's not going to work if we don't have a passion to carry it out. And these days, we've got to have a passion, and something has to reign. I believe what's out there is this huge battle between truth and power. And when truth wanes, the power factions take over. Whether it's political, theoretical, environmental, sociological, philosophical, it doesn't matter. Those power factions take over when truth disappears and is done in a corner. And I believe the whole end of Acts was about this trial of truth in the church and Christianity. And when we say that statement, I am a Christian by choice and convictions, it should rock the world. And it should rock our world. And it should be what we teach our children. And that's what I walked away with. They're getting pulled. Everything's on trial. And what's reigning? Well, the major social event right now, or the lie, or this or that, whatever it is. And I think we have got to explore this statement a little bit. Jennifer and I were recently asked by a couple in South Africa, in Johannesburg. They're putting together a thing really cool on how to help parents from the ages of 5 to 11. 11 or 12. Anyway, somewhere before teens. Young parents. And they're calling it The Village. And how to help each other. So they said, if you could get in front of these parents, what are the top 3 things you would share with them because of your years of experience with the kids and all of that? And so we put together some things. But here's one of the things that struck me. And I want to just read it, right? I wrote it. Live so your child loves or hates, but is never indifferent to the truth. Live so they love it or hate it, but never indifferent. Isn't that what in Revelation? Isn't there references all through the Bible? Don't be lukewarm. Don't be indifferent. Either hate it and say, I'm never going to follow it again. Great. That means it's real. Because you can't hate something that's not real. And eventually, your love and my love as parents will win over the day. And God's unconditional love. And I believe that. I'm living that right now. And so I was like, let's teach that. Because the truth is on trial. So let's look at a couple of these things. Let's break this statement down. I am. It begins with I am. The name of God. Yahweh, the great I am. And I love that this phrase is throughout the Bible. I am a Jew. I am this. It's just this reference. Even when Jesus said, his name, they fell down. I mean, it's around, but it harkens back to when they were enslaved in Egypt and they came out and Moses like, what do I call you? Why was that so important? Why? Because all the Egyptian gods had names. I tried to list some. Hapi, Heket, Geb, Kepri, Hathor, Isis, Nut, Seth, Ra, Pharaoh. They all had names. And so Moses grew up in that. And he said, well, you got to have a name. And so God said, well, here's my name. I am. I was, I am today, and I will be tomorrow. There's no boundaries. And so when he went in there and started talking and sharing, showing, there was no boundaries. And God took each of the gods of Egypt down one plague at a time because they are finite and limited. We serve an unlimited God. And it begins with that. I am. And I don't know where you are and what we're about to talk about. I don't know what you discovered in your 30 seconds. And it doesn't really matter how long you've been a Christian. It doesn't matter if you're not a Christian. It doesn't matter really anything. It's how you responded to that statement and what stirred up in you. And I hope that it's always centered on the great I am. Psalm 115. This psalm is beautiful. And we studied Psalms this summer. And this one just struck me. I can't ever remember consciously reading this. I've read through the Psalms several times, but I can't remember this. And maybe the context pulled it out. But if I'm getting bombarded by all these gods and philosophies and everything else that wants to reign, then this makes sense. Not to us, Lord, not to us, but to your name be the glory. Because of your love and faithfulness, why do the nations say, where is their God? Our God is in heaven. He does whatever pleases him. But their idols are silver and gold made by human hands. They have mouths but cannot speak, eyes but cannot see. They have ears but cannot hear, noses but cannot smell. They have hands but cannot feel, feet but cannot walk, nor can they utter a sound with their throats. Those who make them will be like them, and so will all who trust in them. I love to talk politics. And I know what I politically believe. I also know what I believe philosophically. And I'd love to sit down in a chair with you and I'll go toe to toe and I will expose your lack of philosophy and I'll expose your lack of ability to know what you really believe politically. Because really what you believe is emotional and you get caught up in the social things because you don't know what you believe politically. Do you see where I'm going with it? That could be my God, because I love to talk about this stuff and I have conviction about it. But does it reign in my life? Mm-mm. I'm prejudiced. Didn't think I was. I don't think I'm a racist, but I am prejudiced. And I can tell you about my first prejudice moment. Walked up to basketball game. Freshman in high school, I was close enough. I loved watching the basketball team. I got Mr. Spirit all 4 years of my high school, because you can imagine that, huh? Anyway, Jennifer's going, well, surprise. Anyway, so I'm going up there, and so, oh my gosh, there's a senior there. He's an African-American guy, and he's amazing. And I'm going to go up and see him. I don't care if anybody goes with me. I'm going to sit by myself. So I sat up at the top of the stairs, and he's sitting there, because the girls' game is on, and he's sitting there watching the girls' game. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's him. And here's what came out of my mouth. I said, I hope you have a great game tonight, boy. And I have no idea where that came from. I was never taught that. I don't remember being taught that as a kid. I don't remember anything from my family being prejudiced or racist. I don't remember any of that. Where did that come from? And I'm embarrassed about it to this day because, his friend was sitting there. He got mad. His friend had to stop him. I thought I was about to get beat up by a senior. I'm a little freshman. And his friend said, you got to play tonight. Don't you go there. And I'll never forget that. And it haunts me to this day because it made me explore, why did I say that? And why did it mean so much? I didn't get it. Why are you getting so mad at me? Until later I realized, oh my gosh. So you see, I don't even know where I got my prejudices. And they're there. But do they reign? Not as a Christian, they don't. And do I have passion for them? No. So you see how all these things that are pulling us, we can get caught? Not if Yahweh is my reigning point of reference. Otherwise, I'll build these idols and I'll become just like them. Now, I am also means to be. It means that God made me. I'm created in the image of God. I exist. I'm a conscious, sentient being. And that means I can make choices. I can think. I can decide. I can learn. I can grow. I can exercise faculties that nothing else in creation can do. No matter how beautiful, no matter how awesome you think they are, you or me are the pinnacle. I am. I exist. And you know what? That makes me different than an idol because my nose works and my mouth works and my eyes works and everything works. But until I decide to give over reign, and then they don't work like they're supposed to. But sometimes we forget that. We forget that I control. I have a saying, we can explore it at another time. In fact, I think a long time ago we might have talked about it because I was talking about it a lot. But I think God is sovereign, but he's not in control. And I'll just let you think about that because he gave me the chance to choose. I actually can control my life. Now, in the big picture, can I get outside the sovereignty of God? No, let's not go there. It's way above my pay grade. But he gives me some level of control. How to parent, who to fall in love with, what to give my money to, what to do with my time. By the way, if you got time to chop, you got time to shop. Go buy a gift. All right. It's in my destiny. I am existing. That's another play on those words. I am a Christian. Let's explore that. Next slide. So I decided to figure out, what does it mean to be a Christian? I think today is so watered down. Just press one more time. You'll get there. There's all kinds of questions, all right? What is a Christian? What does it really mean? Christ-like. Okay, can we get real academic and, it's Christ-like, No. What does it mean to you? All right, next slide. So I decided to do a little experiment. So I went down to, before that. One before there? Oh, don't tell me it didn't show up. Okay, that's all right. I'm wearing the same thing. So anyway, so what it is, it's a selfie of me in front of the racetrack gas station. Okay, I've got me right here, racetrack in the back. I decided to go on a Sunday morning and dress like this and get some gas, and I'm going to ask some questions. And so an older gentleman was across getting gas. I said, "Can I ask you a question?" He's sure, he's a real nice guy. I said, "Do you think I'm a Christian?" And he goes, he walks over to my car, puts his hands on the rooftop there, and starts talking. He says, "Well, I don't want to judge. I kind of think, I don't know, you could be, but I don't want to. I want to get to know you better, to know." I said, "Hey, man, that's a great answer." And we got to talking, and finally I said, "Well, what about you? Are you a Christian?" And he goes, All right. So, okay, experiment goes on. I go in, pay for my gas, I come back out, and I'm about to leave, and I thought, I really want to ask some more people. So these two young ladies drive up, and I thought, great, here's the old guy asking. Anyway, let's see how this goes. But it's a college town, okay, in Athens, so you can get away with, I'm doing a social experiment survey. Thank you. And so I did that. I pulled the survey card, said, can I ask you a question? Do you think I'm a Christian? And the first girl goes, "Yeah, I think so. I grew up Catholic. I think everybody's a Christian, and I think everybody wants to be. Yeah, I do think you're a Christian." And I said, "Well, isn't that interesting?" I said, "So automatically, we're all just included. So no matter what, huh?" And I said, I looked down and said, "Well, I don't normally dress like this, to go to get gas or anything. If you saw my real uniform, it's shorts and T-shirts and a whistle. But I dressed up, and I thought maybe you might thought since it was Sunday morning, if I dressed up, that you would think I'm a Christian." The other girl goes, "That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought you were a Christian because you're all dressed up on Sunday." And so I looked at him and I said, "Isn't that interesting? That's all it takes to be a Christian these days. Just dress up, go down to your local racetrack, Quick Trip, whatever your frequent, places you get gas, and Sunday morning, and everybody will think you're a Christian. La-ti-da. No wonder the world never changes. Because that's all it takes. And it's for the real Christians who say, I am a Christian by choice and conviction to stand up and set the standard and apply truth. And that leads us to the last thing. By choice and conviction. By choice. You have a choice. I don't know how many of you have ever read Viktor Frankl's, ever heard of him? Viktor Frankl? Hopefully in school, paid attention in one class. Anyway, all right. Once I talk about him, you'll know who he is. He's the guy who's a Jewish psychologist that was in Auschwitz. And he was in the concentration camp. And he survived Auschwitz. And he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And it's all about his experiences. You want a harrowing book? Read that book. And he tells you in there, I'm not going to tell you all that happened because you wouldn't be able to read it. But basically, humanity was taken down to nothing. Imagine taking a cheese grater, that block of cheese, and you keep grating it all the way down to that last little bit of thing. That's what the Germans did to the Jews. You're nothing. Just grated them right on down to nothing. And he started studying in his psychological way, well, how did people survive? And here's what it came down to. It came down to that little nub of cheese that they couldn't get to, and that's called choice. Because he said it's the one thing no one can take away from you. No one. No matter what happens, no matter what people say, no matter what the politics or the philosophy of the day is, no one can take that from you. And that's why it's the most powerful thing on the earth. Choice. Conviction. Next slide. Now, for you academics, that's small. I can't even read that. Well, go look it up. Just pull out your phone. There it is. Bottom line, it means it's from the Latin to convincere, it's a convincere. To conquer. What do you conquer? Maybe it's some of the things you just reflected on. A fear, a doubt, drudgery, complacency. Maybe you think this is as good as Christianity gets, or maybe you don't know the Bible very well. You can conquer all of that. 1 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 5. It says, for we know, brothers and sisters loved by God, that he has chosen you because our gospel came to you not simply with words, but also with power, with the Holy Spirit and deep conviction. You know how we lived among you for your sake. This is why community is so important, right? So we know how each other lives. But I had some interesting talks just by walking in a gas station going, hey, do you think I'm a Christian? Woo, let's see where we go. Why? Because I want you to know what reigns in my life. I want you to know what I'm passionate about. Because I have conviction. And I've learned that no political policy is going to change the heart of man. You can fight abortion all you want. You can be on one side or the other. It doesn't matter until you change the heart. And that takes conviction and the Holy Spirit. And it doesn't matter your circumstance or your location. Doesn't matter your health or mobility. Doesn't matter your wealth or nobility. Doesn't matter any of that. Some of the strongest, dedicated people I know are actually have illnesses and they can't get out as much. We're a little older. It doesn't matter. It's about where's my heart? What reigns in my heart? Because what reigns in my heart is going to turn into my behavior. You want a great study? I'm about to start this. Might get into camp next year somewhere. I don't know. This week it kind of came up. Go look at all the things that God judges us by. It's never by the things of the heart of the emotion. It's always by our behaviors. I think that's right. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. But God is patient with us to work things out and to kind of get our emotions and get things right. But then he looks at what we do with it. And that's where conviction and choice play out. So, as I close out here, choice, conviction are powerful. Next slide. The truth, church, Christianity, they are on trial. And Paul, in this whole section, he appeals with passion to almost every power group that's out there. Every power group that wants to see truth stuck in the corner and wants to raise its head to rule and to reign. It's the religious power, the civic power, the theoretical, the political, the national, the egocentrical, the philosophical, the psychological, all of that. And what does he say? He says, you know what? I want everybody here to be like I am. I want you to quiet the crowd. I want you to examine my life so that you can see the truth. Because the truth is what? I am a Christian by choice and conviction. Find your passion in that. My challenge for you is to go home and spend longer than 30 seconds and examine, say it to yourself every morning for a week and see what stirs. If you're sedentary, stir it up. The world needs that. Our kids need that. We need to live so they either love or hate the truth. I know that's scary, very scary. But it's better than indifference. Because if we, the old saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. That's what's happening to them. And it can happen to us. And I don't want our church, the church that stands on the truth, the church of Jesus, the body of Christ, all the names. It says glory in the church. I don't want the church to be like every other, just awash in the power struggles. Let's let this truth stand out. Me, I'm a Christian by choice and conviction. What are you? And then what will you do with that? Thank you.